cultural demand from the past to do something better than what they have been living in the past 100 years, and especially now in the past decade with the great freedom of information to them from the outside world and to each other. They are really realizing that just financial gains here and there are not sufficient to live as a human being with full human rights.
Sharif Al-Musa, let me bring you back into excuse me, the conversation now. This idea that an uprising could happen in Saudi Arabia when, I think, broadly speaking, people say that would be the country you think it wouldn't happen. But then I guess we said that about Egypt too.
Well, you know, the Arab countries are not all the same. Some of them are, as we know, rich, some of them are poor, some have large populations, some have smaller populations, some have tribal structures, more or less, some don't. So they're not going to be exactly, you know, like clones of each other.
No, but what about Saudi Arabia? Because it's probably seen as the, you know, one of the strongest countries in the region and one of the more stable, quieter countries.
Yeah, I think what the Saudi regime has taken into consideration is that here you have their neighbor, Egypt. This is the key Arab country, and their old friend, Mubarak, getting overthrown. And they worry. Now, if Jordan, you know, begins to, people demand to have constitutional monarchy and they achieve it, then Saudi Arabia will worry. So it may be also the regional changes, the regional dynamic will affect how the Saudi population will respond to this and the Saudi opposition. It is not going to be very easy, I imagine, because you know, the regime is repressive and we don't really know of a great deal of organized opposition in Saudi Arabia. But then in Libya, it didn't seem to be that way, and look what happened.
So Sharif has brought up the idea there of constitutional monarchies, and we've heard this a few times in the discussion, so I think we should discuss that now. Mohammed Fahad, I'll come to you in Riyadh. This idea of, and this is being talked about in Jordan as well, the people in Jordan wanting this, of a monarch who is more symbolic and an actual government voted for by the people, which works for the people. You know, I don't wish to belittle the people of the region at all, but are they ready for this? When you've had absolute monarchy for so long, are they ready for that sort of change?
Well, I think they are. Given the fact that the regime is failing to deliver as far as fundamental services like healthcare and education and infrastructure. You know, for God's sake, in the 2 consecutive years, flooding that has taken place in Jeddah and a lot of people perished, and it happened again this year, with nothing substantial has been taken. People are really, you know, frustrated with the status quo. They are disenfranchised from the system. Constitutional monarchy could be a solution, but you know, of course, it will take, you know, maybe a transition of many years to achieve a genuine constitutional monarchy. But the regime need to announce the intention publicly, and you know, they could go in a transition of 5 years. This you know, could happen, but the question is whether the regime is ready to compromise. I don't see them compromising. For instance, I've been approached by a senior prince just the other night. They want to, you know, hold a dialogue with some intellectuals, and I was invited to participate in the dialogue. And they gave us condition. It's like a secret meeting, and they refuse in the ground that, look, let's be open. If you want to have a discussion, let's have it public. Let's, as my colleague mentioned, you know, freedom of expression, freedom of media, and so on and so forth. Let people participate in this dialogue. You know, we are not really representative of the people. People could represent themselves. They could speak out. They could demand. They could have an election. These things are fundamental in fixing and you know, empowering the regime in how to present and deliver these basic services. You know, if we stay, you know, things will deteriorate. Unfortunately, as far as unemployment, you know, got from bad to worse, and it might be heading to the worst. And these are, you know, a time bomb that could ignite, you know, people to take to the street. You don't know what will happen maybe next month, maybe the month before. You'd rather make compromises when you are in power rather than last-minute compromises which will not work, like what happened in Egypt, Tunisia, and Libya now. Things are evolving quite quickly.
Adil Shamu, this idea of constitutional monarchy, it would be a big jump, wouldn't it? Maybe I can get your thoughts on Jordan, because this really seems to be the sticking point on Jordan. Not so much about the finance there, but we want a proper constitutional monarchy.
I think that's a possibility, but I would say it's a small possibility that the people will accept it. Those brave people in Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and Tunisia who gave their life, and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands others who supported them, I don't think they are ready to accept less than true freedom and democracy. And I think really royalty and constitutional monarchy is archaic. Let's not compare ourselves to England, which has had over 1,000 years continuous monarchy. Our monarchy is really very recent, and it's on fragile infrastructure underneath them. So throwing them is not going to be that traumatic for the Arab world. And loving the freedom and freedom of expression, voting, it's really, as my colleague said, fundamental, but it's natural. It comes natural to every human being in the world.
Sharif El-Moussa, that jump from full monarchy to full democracy, do you think it can be done? What Adil was saying there was basically that accepting a sort of stepping stone of constitutional monarchy, the people wouldn't accept that.
Well, I think, first of all, when the regime say the Arab people are not ready, it means they themselves are not ready. The Arab people are ready to govern themselves. In Jordan in 1958, there were probably the freest elections you can ever have. You had political opposition from all kinds of parties, from the Muslim Brothers to the Baathists, to the communists, to the liberals, to everyone. And there were free and fair elections, and people elected their government. But then the King Hussein at the time did not really accept to abide by what people wanted. And then he, disbanded the parliament and got rid of the government, and we went back to, years back. And so you can see people are actually capable and are ready. That was in 1958. This is like 40, 50 years ago, right? Why shouldn't they be capable now? They are very educated. Jordan has a very high literacy rate, lots of university graduates. People are very sophisticated in the country. They can surely govern themselves.
Gentlemen, it has been great talking to you, and I think if the three of you are representative of the Arab world, we can see now that nothing short of full change will be enough. Thanks to our guests, Mohammed Fahad Al-Khatmi in Riyadh, Sharif El-Moussa in Doha, and Adil Shamu in Maryland. And thank you for once again joining us for Inside Story. If you want to comment on this show or send us an idea for a future edition, it's easily done.